What's the fastest way you've ever seen someone completely ruin their own life? A kid my family is friends with tried to beat a semi-truck last Friday when he was crossing a highway in their car near Spokane. He and his girlfriend were hit broadside by the semi. She passed on impact and he's in a coma. Failure to yield on his part is the official police report. No substances found in his system. It was about 1 p.m. in the afternoon. If he survives, he has to live with the fact that his choice killed his girlfriend. They were seniors in college. I'm a physician. In residency, one of my co-residents in the last year of his residency got caught looking up details of a female colleague on the medical record. Have no idea how he got caught. He was suspended and eventually fired. 10-ish years of soul-crushing work down on the drain. Literally just found out today that a coworker got his third DUI and got in an accident. Was just sentenced to 3 to 7 years. Dude was making $175,000 a year with awesome benefits. Edit, since so many people are asking. He was a facility operator in oil and gas in Alaska but lived in Idaho where he got the DUI. We work rotational schedules of 2 weeks on 2 weeks off, so a lot of people live in the lower 48 and fly up every 2 weeks for work. Only a 2-year degree to be qualified, but it's more about who you know, if you know what I mean. A guy I knew in college fell in love with a prostitute. He decided to intimidate her pimp to let her move away with him to another state. The guy ended up beaten into a coma. He never was the same after that. Eventually got addicted to opioids. Why not just move? Why even bother asking permission? It's not like you're assassinating Don Corleone here and they're going to bother tracking you down. Well, just the fact he fell in love with a prostitute should be enough to see he wasn't a person with any common sense. You realize he wasn't making smart decisions, but he was in love. That messes with people's heads. Guy in Virginia Beach, who was clearly stoned, asked me if I wanted to buy any LSD, while I was standing directly next to a uniformed Virginia Beach police officer. Granted, it was a bicycle cop, but he was still wearing their standard summertime bike uniform. I literally thought this had to be a joke, but I looked at the officer, then back at the dealer and said, "No thanks." The guy then immediately turned to the police officer and noticed something was off, but couldn't quite place it, so he asked him, "Hey, you're not a cop, are you?" To which the cop, who couldn't believe this was happening either, slowly shook his head and said, "No." The dealer smiled and looked relieved and was like, "Cool. Wanna buy some acid?" And the cop, who was still in utter disbelief, was like, "Sure." And pulled out his wallet. They made the transaction, and the guy was in cuffs less than 10 seconds afterwards. Weirdest shit I ever saw. The 80s were so fucked up. The Jumbotron at the Coldplay concert. I had my own Jumbotron experience. My ex liked to sit in a certain spot at the cricket, as it's a common spot for the ball to go if it gets a decent whack. This particular evening, I couldn't go to the game as he wanted to go, so I stayed home with the kids and watched it live on TV. Ball gets whacked, goes into the stands, lands about a row behind my ex. And one of the female carers from my kids' daycare. She lost her job, he lost in the divorce, and I gained my freedom. In hindsight, she did me a favor. Mom, I have terminal cancer. Only months to live. But if you liquidate your life savings, the doctors could probably save me. His mother did, and he lived large for a few months. He did not have cancer, he just felt entitled to everything his mother had saved for her retirement. No one would socialize with him being such a known scumbag. His sister told everyone and anyone about her low-life scummy brother. He hung himself a few months later. In a location in his mother's house where he knew she would be the first to see his dead body. John. You were trash. Happened a few months before I started working at a local council in the early 2000s. One day this guy didn't show up for work, the police came with a warrant and seized his work computer. Apparently, he had been bringing in a USB modem to connect to the internet via his phone line, circumventing all the blocks on the council's network, and downloading CP to burn to a CD and take home. He was found out when one of his kids took the wrong CD to school to show the teacher the work they had done on a project. Tangentially related, when I started working in a major corporation's info security department many years ago, I was told about an incident they detected a while before. A very high-level executive was working from home one day and looking at CSAM on his work computer. Which in and of itself is woodchipper-worthy behavior, and the company had systems to detect and prevent that sort of thing, but back then those systems weren't as advanced as they are today. What really stood out was the way he got caught. He must have forgotten he was on a work laptop because he tried to print off some images. He either forgot or wasn't aware that his computer was networked to the office printer, not his personal home printer. The printer was a shared device on the floor where his whole team sat. His personal assistant was the unlucky soul who wandered over when she heard it boot up and start printing. Not sure what happened to him ultimately, but obviously the company called the police straight away and terminated him with immediate effect. Kid I went to high school with posted a video of himself kicking the crap out of his dog because he thought it was funny, suddenly had half a dozen ex-girlfriends coming out talking about how he was an abusive partner too. Lost his job, his girlfriend at the time and most of his friends. Hung himself a couple months later. Sometimes psychopaths and narcissists get so far up their own asses that they actually forget what's considered acceptable to the average person, and so you get these stories of them freely exposing their own despicable behavior because they don't think anybody else will think it's wrong. This was in the 2016-2017 era when the trend was to post stupid stuff on Facebook like the milk challenge, or attempting crazy parkour stunts. It didn't seem that he recognized the video he posted was anything different from those examples until he had people out to get him. Girl I knew and worked with went on a free holiday with a lad she just met to Mexico, got a connecting flight back via the States back to the UK. Goes through security and her suitcase is full of cocaine. Ends up on trail in the US facing up to 40 years, I think she's doing 15 now. US prisons are hell compared to UK women's prisons. Story made headlines here in the UK, absolutely wild seeing her face everywhere. Was she framed or was she aware of it? She was told the suitcase was full of money. Stealing my dad's, but seeing a guy demonstrating how some idiot got his arm torn off in a machine. And the guy proceeding to get his arm tore off in the machine. When I did my first aid training last year, my instructor told me about a guy who he'd treated before who got their finger sliced off in a machine at work. If I recall correctly, he got it stitched back on. His boss had him come back into work and asked him how he lost his finger so he could prevent it happening to anyone else, and the guy demonstrated how he lost his finger, by losing the same finger on the other hand. One of my high school classmates went to buy some weed, pulled a gun out to rob the dealer, then shot him in the back as he ran away. It was over a trivial amount too. The guy had a full ride scholarship to college, and is now serving a life sentence. He was also dumb enough to be caught within hours of the murder. Edit, this happened in Texas. This reminds me of my best friend's older brother who I'd hang out with. This happened when I was 16 and I believe he was 21. He sold drugs, lived the cholo gangster type of life, but was overall a chill dude. A guy drove down from another city an hour away to ours to buy some shit from him. The guy threatened my friend with a knife to try and rob him. My friend fought back and was stabbed 97 times, with 36 of those being in his face. He died in the ambulance on the way to the hospital. I'll never forget hearing my friend's emotionless voice when I called her because we planned to do acid with her brother that weekend. That day was so surreal. Had a teacher male coworker back in the day report a female teacher of harassing him at work. Pinching his ass, feeling him up, massaging his shoulders, etc. She in turn lied and said he molested her in the stairwell. We knew it was a lie because she eventually admitted to it. However, the damage was done. He was immediately terminated, no questions asked, and due to the nature of the field had his record noted, he was terminated due to accusations of molesting a coworker. He was essentially blacklisted from the educational field after just starting out and accruing massive amounts of loan debt to finish his education. He eventually lost everything and took his own life. It made the local paper. If he reported her first, why wasn't she terminated on the spot? As a woman, I hate this level of double standard. That poor guy. Calculated risk for the company. In a case with no tangible evidence, ruining his life isn't going to make local or national news. It will fall right in with the majority of cases because that's more believable in society. When people lie, everyone loses. Drunk roommate stole my landlord's car, drove the wrong way on the freeway and caused another car to crash, killing the family inside and then pleading insanity. Absolute insanity. This happened in SoCal. And found not criminally responsible? This was 2 years ago. He did some time and ended up being released for whatever reason. Last time I checked, he was homeless somewhere in Texas. Grew up with a guy that did a lot of backroom poker gambling. Had a wife and 2 kids with a nice house and owned an excavation company. Put his deed on the line one night and lost his house after he had already lost a lot of his heavy equipment gambling. Family was destroyed and he killed himself after that. Dang. I mean, if you're going to gamble, just do it with the money in your pocket. Deed to the house is movie level crazy. Seriously. I mean, this guy gambled away multiple six-figure bulldozers, dump trucks, and other machinery before he even got to losing the house. All in the same week. I have to wonder what happens if you just refuse to give away your house after that. Like, if he just said, "That was obviously an unrealistic bet I made, it's only a game, bro, I can't just make my family homeless." What is the winning player going to realistically do about it? I would agree if it was on a personal level. The people he was surrounded by were part of organized crime groups on the East Coast that threatened him pretty harshly apparently. The house was later sold under a management company that appeared to be a shell entity after they got him to hand over the deed and sign contracts with a shady attorney. One of my kids' friends was in high school, decided that trying to rob a dealer for an insignificant amount of weed was no big deal. He was a sophomore at the time. The dealer shot him as he was running away with the weed. He is now in a wheelchair, paralyzed from the waist down. Last we heard, he was understandably very depressed and angry with himself. During my Air Force tech school training, this guy mentioned how he was going to sell government secrets after obtaining his clearance. Me and just about everyone within earshot reported him during our polygraph. A few days later he was escorted out of the building and was never seen again. I still remember that moment even 6 years later because of the sheer stupidity. Mentioning that you'd commit treason and espionage in a dorm full of airmen, even as a joke, is mind-boggling. Talk about insider threat. You never know. Guy in my college dorm boasted he spent the summer in Israel and was working for Mossad. Nobody believed him. A few years later he was arrested working in the Pentagon as an Israeli spy. An old friend I grew up with got in a fight with his girlfriend and she left and took his PlayStation. He stayed up all night and got high on coke and plotted his revenge. That morning he went to the house she was staying at and tried to kill her. She was holding their 6-month-old son. Another good friend of the group stepped in front of her to protect her and the baby and he shot him in the head by mistake. He's in prison for life and our other friend died. Their baby was left without his dad. 3 lives destroyed in the course of a few hours. 4 if you count her trauma watching someone die to save her. How do you mistakenly shoot someone in the head? By all accounts from everyone that was there, since thankfully I wasn't, he was beside himself after shooting him. He didn't even try to run. He just sat there in the floor. It definitely doesn't make it better at all, but he wasn't the intended target. He just got in the way. His attorney argued in court that his intent was just to scare her so he could try and avoid a murder conviction and only get convicted of manslaughter. But the fact that he stayed up all night thinking about it and planned the whole thing got him life for murder. Does anyone remember the young white woman who went walking with her new dog in Central Park, one fine spring day, and she decided to take the dog into a special wild reserve part of the park very prominently posted with no dogs allowed? The signage explained that there were ground nesting birds there and dogs tore them up. But this young woman knew best and took her dog in anyway. But the dog was romping around tearing stuff up, and a birdwatcher in the area pointed out the signs to the young woman. But she ignored him. So he explained the purpose of the reserve and the signs and she got belligerent. He turned his phone's recorder on and warned her about the fines and so on. She got more belligerent and finally called the police and said he was assaulting her. He had all this on video when the police arrived. How it all went down is lots more credit to him than her. He, incidentally, is black. He's also a birder known throughout the region, on the board of National Audubon, etc. He didn't press any charges, the police did that. She got fired, having made the front page of the New York Times, and the rescue group that gave her the dog took it back. If you find the article and read it, you will be staggered at the way she just kept digging her grave deeper. What an absolute idiot. If I had been her boss I would have fired her too. She was a manager at Franklin Templeton, earning very big money and living near Central Park. She really messed up. My mom's boyfriend, after he attacked me and broke my nose and arm and gave me a concussion, all because he felt that I disrespected him by refusing to show him me and my girlfriend's conversations on my phone. Not to mention I had already moved out when this happened. I was 23 and I was only there to pick up my stuff I left behind because I hadn't moved everything yet. So now he's heading to prison for the next 10 years. Sorry that happened, but you probably saved your mom's life. Not really. My mom is defending him and is staying loyal to him. She even threatened to kill herself and put me in a mental asylum if I called the police on him. During the attack, she was yelling that I deserve this and it's the consequences of my actions, so I had no choice but to contact my dad. He called the police with me. Also, my mom has tried to disown me. She is still harassing me to this day, telling me to drop the charges and tell the courts all of my injuries were self-inflicted, which I think is insane. Still, I'm not too worried about it. It's disappointing, but I'll just keep living my life. I just don't like how she's turned her entire side of my family against me. Can I use myself as an example? When I was 21, I tried to protect a close friend from her abusive boyfriend. She called me yelling for help as he was attacking her again and I was nearby. I ran to her building but couldn't get inside. It was summer, their patio door was open, I heard her screaming still. So, I climbed up the balconies to get to them. They lived on the 5th floor. When I got there, the guy living on the 4th floor saw me pass his balcony and, rightfully, came out to see what the fuck was going on. He thought I was breaking in, was oblivious to the commotion above him, so he grabbed my ankle as I was on the railing above. I fell 5 stories, approximately 55 feet. I broke between 25 to 30% of my bones and was left completely paralyzed for 1 year, in a wheelchair for 2 years. It took over a decade to find my new normal in life. A significant brain injury prevented me from continuing school and the physical limitations made me change everything I enjoyed doing in life. Overall, I'm very lucky and have had an amazing recovery, over time. I live well now, but missed out on what should have been my prime years. I'll be forever haunted by what could have been, who I should have been, had I not made that one impulsive decision and instead just called 911. In the end, I tried to be the knight in shining armor, but became Humpty Dumpty instead. Is this for real? I didn't think a person could survive falling that far. What happened to the girl? It is. Happy to answer any questions. I was very lucky. Some of my injuries included a punctured lung from a broken rib, a compound fracture in my leg as my foot was given about 6 inches up between the tibia and fibula bones, 2 separate types of spinal cord injury, from burst fractures in the lumbar section of vertebrae and something called quada equina, which is compression of all the nerves where they exit the tailbone. I broke most bones you could think of, and the head injury caused aphasia and pretty extreme cognitive issues for a while. There's 2 stories my parents told me from when I was in the hospital that will always stick. 1. The spinal surgeon told my dad, excitedly, "Wow, I never get to work on these ones," meaning usually someone is dead on arrival with these type of injuries. And 2. The paramedics that transported me initially actually came to visit me in the hospital on their own time. One told my mom, "We don't see these ones survive, and we needed a win." As for my friend, she has a happy ending. Left the guy, found an actual good one, got married, has some beautiful kids with him.